Well, for some reaction to what has happened these last few hours, we're now joined by Israel's ambassador to Canada, Ido Moed. Ambassador Moed, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin with your reaction. You know, you and I are talking just after Iran has launched this missile salvo against Israel. Your thoughts on that?
It's just unprecedented number of missiles shot by a country into Israel, sovereign country, indiscriminately into civilian populations all around Israel. If you look at the map that's published for the public to know where to expect those missiles to hit, it covers all of the center of Israel. And this is a war crime in itself. But what Iran is actually unleashing right now is beyond using all its proxies, attacking Israel directly with a clear aim to wipe Israel off the map. That's the stated target and goal by the leaders of the Iranian regime. And so it's unprecedented, and Israel will react to this. This is something that we, of course, cannot let by. No country in the world will allow this to happen, such a barrage of missiles, and we'll deal with that when the time comes.
Although we are already hearing from Tehran saying that if Israel retaliates for this action tonight, that the retribution will be even greater. Does that at all concern you?
We are in a war, and Iran started this war. Iran built a network of proxies around Israel with a very clear target to wipe Israel off the map. Iran is out there, the Iranian regime is out there to destroy the state of Israel. So there is no sort of a tit for tat here. It is very clear. They are the ones who are intent on destroying Israel. We have nothing against the Iranian people. They want to destroy the state of Israel as is. So when they armed and directed and financed and trained those proxies all around Israel, that was with the same goal. Now they do it directly. So they will fire those missiles. They have the intention to do that anyway, whatever Israel does, whether we defend ourselves or we don't. But we will not allow this to happen, and we call on the international community to take action together with Israel and to stand with Israel at this time, because this is not just about Israel. As we know, Iran's reach is far beyond the region. Their missile program reaches far into Europe. Their cyber and covert activities are taking place also in this part of the world. And so we have to be aware that Iran is a threat to global security.
Well, to that, when you talk about proxies, of course, one of them is Hezbollah, which is part of the so-called Iranian axis of resistance. Does the missile attack today affect in any way the ground offensive and what Israel is engaging in right now in southern Lebanon?
First of all, this axis of resistance, there's no resistance here. That's an axis of destruction. They are the ones who want to destroy a sovereign state off the face of the earth. That's their intention. So when they use their proxies in Lebanon, Hezbollah, we just have to remind ourselves, started to shoot into Israel on October the 8th just to support the Hamas in the south. So they've unleashed thousands of rockets, 8,000 to 9,000 rockets, even before the last wave, when Israel decided to go to the next level to stop it. They've destroyed homes. They've killed 48 people. They've killed 12 children playing soccer. And so that kind of indiscriminate attacks against Israel are very clear. They all have the same goal, the same aim, and that is to destroy the state of Israel. So yes, the war in Lebanon is one part, and the war in Gaza is one part. And in all of that, all of us forget one very important thing. 101 hostages are still being held in the tunnels in Gaza. And those people have to come home. Hamas have to lay down their arms, Hezbollah have to lay down their arms, and Iran have to stay back, because the world must not accept that.
Except that when it comes to southern Lebanon, Israel, the IDF, has clearly stated that what their intention here is meant to be limited and targeted and isolated. So how far will the military operation go in Lebanon?
As far as is necessary to allow for the inhabitants of the northern part of Israel to go back to their homes. So if you can imagine the topography of the southern part of Lebanon, the borderline with Israel, there is a mountain ridge that overlooks into Israel. That's where Nasrallah and Khamenei and others stood to look into Israel when they prepared and planned their attacks. There is a ridge which is filled with Iranian bunkers and missile depots and so on. And this is our aim, to make sure that when this area is vacated, it's a strip of land of about 10 kilometers to the north of Israel's border with Lebanon that needs to be empty from any kind of arms and militias and terrorists, of course. The only ones who are allowed there are the United Nations Peacekeeping Corps and the Lebanese Army. And there is a Security Council resolution, actually there are two, 1701 and 1559, both of them aimed to make sure that that situation is created on the ground. But since they were drafted and agreed on by the United Nations Security Council, they were never fully implemented. And the whole world knows that. I mean, these reports were coming to the Security Council every few months, again and again. So we have to take that action to make sure that Hezbollah cannot threaten the inhabitants of the northern part of Israel, who some of them live almost on the border, and they left that area. 60,000 of them are still living somewhere around Israel, but not in their homes. Some of their homes were destroyed. Some of their plants were destroyed, their livelihood and so on. So all that needs to be changed so that they can go back and live in peace along the border, just as the inhabitants of the southern part of Lebanon.
But how do you ensure that there is no backlash from Hezbollah and Hamas after these military operations? Will Israel occupy these territories, or are you looking to the United Nations to establish missions to create a safety zone for Israel?
We know that Hamas and Hezbollah must be disarmed. They must be neutralized. They must disappear. Both of these terrorist organizations have only one stated goal. Hamas call it the liberation from the river to the sea, and Hezbollah calls it the liberation of Jerusalem. They both have the same aim. So both of these terrorist organizations must cease to exist. That's very clear. How this will take place, it is clear that there is a need for the international community to step in, for the government of Lebanon to step in and to take responsibility for its own territory. But until that happens, Israel will have to take care of its security in the best way it sees fit. And so we'll have to see that. But of course, we are asking for the international community to support us, to de-radicalize and to demilitarize the Gaza Strip, and to make sure that the Security Council resolutions are implemented in the southern part of Lebanon. And that's the role of the international community, the United Nations, the countries in the region, all of those who are seeking peace and security, and understand that only by standing together we'll be able to mitigate the threat that is not just to Israel, but actually to the whole world.
Now, the fear is expressed many times by different players all around the world. The fear of what is happening right now is that it will devolve into a wider war. Is that a fear, or is that a foregone conclusion at this point, that it will be a wider war?
Well, the threat is there. It's not, I wish I could say that it will disappear tomorrow, but Iran's intentions are very clear. And they say we have more missiles, and we'll use more missiles. So the threat definitely exists. It will only be eliminated if the international community steps in as a whole and take a strong position against Iran. I'll give you an example. Canada designated the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization under criminal law. This has happened just recently in June, and that's a breakthrough for the international community's approach to the IRGC. Up until then, it was just the United States and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. So Canada joined and made a very important step here, and I think that other countries should follow suit with Canada, and more sanctions should be implemented, and more pressure should be exerted on Iran so that they will stand back from this horrendous, destructive agenda that they have. The people of Iran are suffering as well. They are not getting access to whatever development and prosperity they could have if their regime would have invested in their development. And so there is something that is very significant when we are talking about the threat from Iran, not just for the Middle East, but also for the rest of the world, because as I said, we've seen evidence, and I think much of it was also published here in Canada, about their influence in campuses, universities, and the destructive role that they're trying to play here as well in society.
So that's the macro, but in the immediate, it is guaranteed that Israel will respond to what happened today.
We will respond at the time and the place of our choosing, but of course something that of that magnitude a salvo of that magnitude is not something that in our part of the neighborhood, in our part of the world, can go as if, just brush it off and say, well, okay, well, we'll live with that. No. Fortunately, very fortunately, our air defense and our population are behaving in such a way that very few people got hurt, and most of the missiles were intercepted. But this is on our side. On the Iranian side, I think the Iranian regime must get a very, very, very clear message. This is not a path to pursue. This should never happen, and should have never happened, and this must never happen again.
Ambassador, thank you for the time.
Thank you.